we've all been as American citizens, and Christians in particular, talking about dessert stuff too much. So this has been a great season for us to get to talk to different people running for office and different opportunities that we can encourage you to have these conversations with your family. Find out what's going on in the state of Iowa. Find out what's going on in your city. And, you know, the nation's going to take care of itself eventually at some point, but closer to home is where you want to be in these conversations, I believe, anyway, especially in these days and times. You can follow us, and we encourage you to like and share us. You can find us on Rumble. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find more information about what goes on with the podcast and the ministry at White Dove at whitedoveministries.net. And joining us today, special guest, Kurtis Bower, who is going from one area of politics and kind of been shoved off a cliff into another area of politics, I think. Kurtis, thanks for coming in today and being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad you let me come on. So
no, I appreciate that. Thanks for reaching out, by the way. Like I said, that's not common, and I was glad to hear from you.
Well, I mean, I figured if Zach Lane's going to do it, I might as well do it.
We're still working on him. We got to crank his elbow. We think we're going to get him in here yet, and I appreciate that too. Briefly, if you don't mind, the best question to ask. I know you've got some backstory for sure, but what got you from? You stepped out. Here's a wide gap for you. You stepped out of high school, and then you became a mayor of a town. And I know those aren't close together.
No. Let's see. So I graduated high school when I was 18. I joined the military when I was 17. And then I'm now 43. So, yeah, there's a lot of space to fill.
Just as a matter of record, please note that I didn't ask him his age. He offered that willingly.
So I was born in a little town called Sigourney, Iowa. It's down in southeast Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the county seat for Keokuk County. I was one of the last babies to be born there. The OBGYN was, it didn't take long for her to leave and go get a bigger, better job somewhere else, as opposed to being in Podunk, Iowa. And so, like a lot of kids growing up, my parents divorced when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I finished third grade in the Sigourney schools. And what was interesting about my upbringing was my parents were relatively young. So it was my grandparents who were their proxies, really.
Sure.
My mom was going to school full-time, working full-time. And my dad was working day in, day out, doing construction, driving truck, doing all of those things. So my grandparents were the ones who were really providing the care and the oversight.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was the woodshop teacher at the local high school, and then he became the middle school principal, and then he later became part of the administration as far as the school district goes in the Sigourney schools.
Oh.
And then my other grandfather owned and operated a excavating, bulldozing business and did a lot of tiling. So between the two of them, I got a lot of like tough love, a lot of well-roundedness. My mom's dad was really stoic and really like hard-nosed and really rigid, where my dad's dad, he was more the laid back, the prankster, the jokester, the lighthearted guy.
You got to have one of those in the room.
Oh yeah.
You got to have.
And what's funny is the difference in height between the two. So my mom's dad is 6'4". My dad's dad was only 5'7", and here I am, 6'4". I remember I give him crap at whatever meal or holiday we were doing, and he'd say, "You better be careful because I'm going to cloud up and rain all over you." I never, it was a really good experience. So
just in what you're sharing with me now, one of the things I'm picking up on is you were raised within a family network, even with the divorce, of people that also worked, like they were still committing to, we got to pull our weight.
Oh yeah,
That sounds like
absolutely.
a family upbringing. If she was
Oh,
like, it's
yeah.
like sitting down on the couch for more than 30 minutes is probably not allowed, in the sense that you're giving a history of people's like, hey, we're going to work. We're going to work to have an impact and to have a family.
And bored was not a word you used. Just saying.
Was that a word you ever used?
No,
And a family member said, "Oh, you need something to do," and you went, "No." That's a,
My cousin,
yeah.
my cousin Gabe made the mistake of using it. I was like, "What? No, shut your mouth."
We don't use the B word here. No, absolutely
It's
not.
it's kind of like what is it? It's kind of like nurses in the ER. You don't say the Q word. So that's
you learned early on. Early on in this.
So my parents divorced in 1992. So I finished the 3rd grade in 2nd grade. And then my mom found this job in Cedar Rapids as a nurse. So we moved there, and I had a relatively boring middle class upbringing.
You used the word. It's boring.
It was a mundane.
Yeah.
We worked hard. It was before cell phones. Dial-up was a thing in 1995.
Indeed.
And I went to Cedar Rapids Jefferson, and I graduated in 2001. I was not a high school, I was very bright, very sharp. I could go in and ace a test, no problem. I just didn't show up for a lot of classes. So I wasn't exactly the best high school student.
Yeah.
So quickly realizing that I was heading down a path that my parents are not going to help me with college. So they already made it known, your grades are atrocious. No, we're not helping you. Okay. So one day, my mom says to me, "What are you going to do?" I don't know. So out of the blue, a few days had passed, and I get this random phone call. It's the National Guard recruiter. And I was like, So I just wanted to get him off the phone. So I agreed to meet with him in the counseling office the next day. So that time came and went that following day, and I didn't go down there. About 15 minutes later, I'm getting this hall pass from the counselor's office. "Hey, you need to show up." Okay, so I go down there. The recruiter talks me into, I can tell you the recruiter's name is Jeff Timmerman.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, he's a great guy. Great guy. He's a Pentecostal pastor, by the way.
Wow, and a recruiter.
And yeah.
So I think that goes hand in hand. We call that evangelism in the church, or that's what we call it. We go out, we reach one, seems logical to me.
Yep. So it's funny. So he gets me like, "What would you be interested in? We got all these great deals going on. I don't know. I don't know that I want to commit." He's like, "Well, let me ask you this. Would you at least take the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery?"
Okay. Yep.
That's their big IQ test.
Got it.
So I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it. What the heck?" So I go in there and I take it. And I don't know how well I do. A few days later, the recruiter calls the house. I think I took it in November, if I recall correctly. And the recruiter calls the house and he says, my little baby brother, he's 4 years younger than me. I think I'm a junior at this point. My brother's 7th grade. He answers the phone and asks for me, and my brother says, "I'm not there." Recruiter proceeds to ask my brother, "Is your brother some kind of genius?" And he goes, "What? Curtis? Genius? No."
He was saying, "You don't know my brother, right?"
No, right.
I know my brother.
Right.
You don't know my brother.
And he's like, No. So I'm like, I get told this story when I get home finally that evening because I'm at school. So I'm still in band. I'm still in theater. I'm still doing sports. I'm still doing classes and whatnot. And I get home. It's probably 9 o'clock at night. My mom tells me this story. And I'm like, what? She said, yeah. So I call a recruiter the next day. Turns out I scored a 99 on my 99th percentile on my ASVAB. So I'm like, okay. He said, you performed really, really well. I'm like, huh. Yeah. So you have your pick of the litter as far as whatever job you want in the military. We'll give you.
He said that before you enlisted.
Yeah.
Was that confusing, or was that hope giving to you? The idea of getting to choose what path in the military you're going to walk down.
I believe it was hope giving because I already took the test. I was in relatively good physical shape.
Yep.
I didn't have any ailments. I didn't have a hurting back. My knees were in great shape. I was physically active. I didn't have asthma or anything like that. So he said, you can pick any job you wanted. And the job I picked had an $8,000 enlistment bonus. And this was, we're talking late 99 going into 2000. So I set it up and I'm going to MEPS in January. So it was January 24th, 2000. Drives me to Des Moines, go to the hotel. And then at this point, MEPS was over off of University over in Clive, like over by the Target.
Yeah.
So that's where it was. Yeah. So that's when that happened. And so I go there and the doctor's like, you're really flat-footed. What? No idea that I was flat-footed. And it almost kept me out. And he's like, have you ever had trouble running? No, not at all. I'm a really fast runner. He's like, lets me in anyway. So I enlist in what they call to the MOS 31 Foxtrot. At the point in time, it was a network switching systems operator maintainer. And in short, you were just kind of a communications guru that learned how to run the switchboard, the radios, and made it all talk.
Yep. Slightly important, I might add, when it comes to getting things done.
Especially in a combat scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's what started me down that path. So that summer, 17, go to basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And my drill sergeant is David Lee Brock. And it was an all-male basic training that was very, very, very vulgar.
Nobody would believe there's vulgarity in military training.
Well,
now we know, folks.
Hazing was still illegal.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
But,
I see.
You know, I will say peer pressure is a valuable tool. You know,
I think there is a little something to that. I wouldn't disagree at some level.
Peer pressure is very important. And in a lot of ways, especially if you're going for good. So the very first lesson I ever learned when I arrived at Fort Sill was we just got done getting smoked, which is physically exhausted with exercises. So push-ups, flutter kicks, different exercises. They called it the side of straddle hop, but it was really jumping jacks.
Yep.
So
straddle hop, though, has a certain strength in its title. I mean,
right.
That matters.
Yes.
You bet.
So everything was psychologically geared to making you a lean, mean, green
fighting machine.
Machine.
You bet.
So from holding the cups, you had 2 cups, right? And when you were in the chow hall, you held them like this. Well, when you're at the grenade range, you would hold them just like that, the grenades. So everything was set up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know in the process of this military, serving in the military, and when did you get out? I know you were very vested. And what year did you?
so it was March 5th, 2014.
2014.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you served quite a while.
Yes.
Yep. Long time.
Yep.
And yet, and this, I'm not going to lie, this is interesting to me. It's interesting to me to follow politicians who have military time,
Mm-hmm.
military careers,
Mm-hmm.
military service.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a military guy, meaning I have never served in that fashion. The strength, the endurance, all those kinds of things that go with that. And I've heard the mental endurance is just as, if not bigger than the physical endurance to press on and press through. But I have a tendency to gravitate towards those who have walked through such a discipline, because I feel like if they're going to get involved in government, apparently there's a reason or a benefit to that. You got out in 2014. And I don't know how many years from there to you being, and when I first met you, that's when I learned you were mayor of Roland, correct? Yep. How many years have you been doing that? And do you get to be mayor while you're running, or now that you have announced that you are running, do you have to stop that?
No, I get to be the mayor. You can't hold two elected offices at once. So if I were to be elected into office as a state representative, I would then resign as mayor.
I got you.
Yep.
How did this come about? You were mayor. You got a hold of me and said, hey, can I get on the podcast? There's some stuff I want to talk about. And I said, yeah, let's do that. But it was pretty sudden. What got you from I'm mayor to, guess what? I'm running for District 55.
So Sunday, March 8th, 2026. It's 5:48 p.m. I get this phone call from Shannon Latham, who's our current rep.
In District 55.
Yeah. And I'm like, Shannon rarely calls me. Huh. So I better answer this. So I answer it. She says, hey, how are you? And I said, I'm pretty good. How are you? Oh, I'm really good. Say, do you remember when we had this conversation back in October? There
of 25. 2025.
Yes. At Cabin Coffee, by the way.
Oh, okay. So I'm familiar with that place now.
Yes. So I said, yeah, you asked me if I was still going to run. And at that time I told you I was. Well, turns out she got hired as the executive director of the FFA Foundation and felt she couldn't do both jobs with the kind of like attention both deserve. Oh, so she's saying to me in this moment that she is not running again. And that signatures are due on the 13th. And I'm like,
so you don't have much time.
No, you had 5 days. 5 days start to finish. So it was kind of like, oh. And I said to her, boy, you didn't leave me much time, did you? And she says, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, but it's only 50 signatures. You can get it done in a day. Well, she's right. You can. But there's also the fundraising component you kind of want to prepare for. And I didn't know this until I turned in the signatures right before that I was probably going to have 3 or 4 primary opponents. So initially,
is that common? I'm sorry, that's how unfamiliar I am. Is it?
I don't know.
Common to have that many for one district?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I don't know, and I imagine it probably would be. It's a lot like our gubernatorial with Reynolds stepping down.
Yep.
And then you have these 5 candidates that are stepping in, and it's like everyone wants in.
Seems to open a wide door, doesn't it?
Right.
When somebody steps out. Yep.
So, I don't think that was necessarily a bad thing. Having competition is healthy, and I think it separates the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna find out who knows their stuff, who doesn't know their stuff, who's willing to put in the work, who's willing to listen. I think it's all very healthy.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. You know, during the early on in the governor's race, I was leery when Eddie announced that he was going to run, because I thought, well, is he going to take voters away from Brad Sherman? And what I found was, so I went to, who was it? It was Gary and Shelley Pitts' place. They had a little get together with the governor candidates there. And then there was another event in Cedar Rapids. And then there was another event somewhere else. I don't remember where the other place was, but I'd gone to several events. And what I was finding was they were all sharpening each other. It's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like the equivalent of steel sharpens steel.
Yep.
You want it to happen.
Right.
And the back and forth, and it narrowed their stuff. Oh,
it was working.
Yeah. So in this sort of situation, I have two primary points. Originally I had three, but the young man pulled out when he found out that, it was going to be one heck of a time commitment. And he had two young kids. Understand?
That's tough. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. And he has a full-time job. So,
right.
Yeah, it's really difficult to do that when you have a full-time job. You got two young kids at home, and you're going to be a little ways from home.
Yep.
So
did you ever think, while being mayor, and I met you, the first time we met was at the state capitol.
Mm-hmm. You were talking with Jake Paul.
We were, and he was running around and going, "Hey, this is John. This is John. This is John. This is John." And he was inviting me and a couple other guys. I had my brother with me and another guy from our men's group together. And we're like, "All right, we got to figure this out. We got to feel what it is to walk into the halls of power and try to see what goes on here." And I'm not going to lie, I met you, and I went, "That's one of the calmest men I've ever met." And I'm wondering why he's so calm, because I'm getting a little anxious and irritable, even just walking around. And you just had a calm about you. And I thought, are people at the State House supposed to be calm? Are they supposed to be level? Are they supposed to, aren't people supposed to be shouting stuff at each other and laws and things like this? This is just the truth. So I met you and you're talking and you're kind of talking matter of fact, but I met you and I'm like, he's that one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. So I met you down there and learned that you were the mayor. And I thought, oh, you're a mayor of a town, but what are you doing down here at the state capitol? And is there more in your heart that you would want to do in the future? Like, is this something you're like, I've been waiting for this? Or is this something you had to pull back and go, well, good God in heaven, am I supposed to do this or not? You know what I'm saying?
So I'm obviously not in my first marriage. I'm in my second marriage.
And you've got kids too.
And I've got kids.
Yep.
So I have two kids from my first marriage. My wife's got two kids from her first marriage.
Yeah.
We've got two kids together, and then we've lost two kids.
Oh, okay.
So in the course of everything between her experiences and my experiences inside child custody, I became an advocate for 50-50 shared parenting, because what I was struggling with was my now 19-year-old was struggling in school. He had a behavioral IEP. They sent him to a what they call a PMIC. It's a psychiatric medical institute thing.
Yeah.
Where you're basically an inpatient inside this place. While it's kind of like a residential type setup, you go to class during the day, you have your group therapy, you have your individual therapy, you're trying to keep on track, and they're trying to direct you to where you need to be. And what I found was what the kid really needed was discipline, and the kid needed structure. And what I learned was, by not having that male role model there, that rigid, tough love. Now, that's not all of what men do when they're fathers, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a big component, especially when they're teenagers.
Yeah.
So I had joined a group with Iowa fathers, and part of the problem that we were running into was it was gender specific. So it became more about fathers' rights than it was about kids and families. So I finally got tired of the messaging, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go out on my own. So we formed up a nonprofit called Reforging Families, and that's what I've been pushing for, where you could focus on just removing the acrimony out of divorce and child custody situations, get them onto the path of healing, and then focus on your kids, because guess what? Your kids are still your legacy.
Right. Right.
So if we can have a world where, okay, so we're going to allow divorce. Okay, fine. Well, we need to ensure that these kids are still raised in a manner where they can still get to adulthood and still be functional human beings.
Yes. I think that's interesting. I know you'd mentioned about some involvement, but hearing it more in this detail, I think this is a concept that we as Americans overall think it's about me, it's about what I'm going to do, and I just need the freedom to go do what I'm doing. And that's what I need to be. And when relationships don't work out, it's always interesting to me, because it seems like what you're saying is okay, I had the divorce, we've got kids together, I've remarried, we've got other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And what's important here is that we still have to be adults for the kids of that generation.
Oh, yes.
And I just got to say, that's a big thumb up when you talk about getting involved in something like government, because now you have a focus that's different from what I would call your usual self-centered me. It's all about me and it's what I want. And I see policies that people try to build for them, but I meet people who are like, I'm about policies that have to do with my legacy, the next generation.
Yes. So it's kind of interesting, because Spartans would plant fig trees knowing that when they were fully mature, they would never be able to lay underneath them and enjoy their shade. It was never about them. It was always about the future. And being a soldier, it's not about me. If you don't put the welfare of everyone else before your own, well, so here's the funny part. The funny part is you would hear mental health professionals say, well, you also have to fill your love tank. But the problem was, in that moment, you would go, but this is filling my love tank.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to have church in here today, Kurtis. Yeah. Amen. That's good. That's good.
So,
yeah. That's self-sacrifice.
In going back to the child custody thing, the courts, they're horrible. They're horrible. So there's over 100 judges on the bench right now, and you have 100 different opinions on how they think that a custody situation should be handled. And I'm going to tell you something. Most of the time, probably 85 to 90% of the time, it's really not that bad. Mm-hmm. You guys can get along. You know what you do? You subordinate your ego. You put yourself in check. You humble yourself and put your kids first. Mm. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, Mom, you're not going to be able to do the things that Dad's going to be able to do with them. And Dad, you're not going to be able to do the things that Mom's going to be able to do with them.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Would you say, because, a couple minutes ago I originated the conversation, then is this the force or a force that makes you go, I'm taking one step bigger to get involved at state level, House representation,
Mm-hmm.
and this is my push for that.
So the whole culmination of everything kind of happening all at once,
Yeah.
between the property tax debacle to the budget to me realizing as a mayor, under these current plans, I don't believe that we're going to be able to meaningfully get somewhere and still maintain a Republican voter base or even a conservative voter base, period. We're going to push all of those conservatives into urban areas because they can't afford to live and have the services in those places if we continue to do what we're doing.
I have heard that the risk that goes on, especially in the rural communities as a result of that. Tell me about, you called it a debacle. To me, that's a pretty strong word. Tell me, the property tax, what makes this a debacle and where does it need to be going?
Okay, so in the last 6 years, the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, which determines inflation,
sure,
has been, if you were to just add them up, is 23.5%. So inflation in the last 6 years is 23.5% growth. That's how much it's grown. If you were to put the 2% caps on revenue that they're talking about putting in on all three of the property tax bills that exist right now. Now, granted, there's one that has a soft cap. That's the one we hate the least. We hate it the least. We still hate it. It's awful. And, that's my personal opinion. But again, it takes people sitting down at the table.
Yeah.
When people say they're going to sit down at the table, or they want to encourage others to sit down at the table, but you do, and they demonstrate they're not interested in hearing you, it becomes a totally different thing. So if you were to take 2 times 6, that's 12, right?
That's the limit of my math, by the way. Keep it right there.
So if you compare 12 to 23 and a half, we're talking the difference of almost 2 to 1 in just 6 years.
Right.
That's how much they would be reducing the revenue in those small towns to be able to support the infrastructure that currently exists.
Okay.
So now it's clicking, right?
It is. And that brings up, so I feel like, and I think I'm tracking right with you, the conservative ideal is we need to lower taxes, and some left side would say, well, if you lower taxes too much, then we're not going to have the revenue we need. So this is a battle that I see sometimes, and so people need to have ideas to create revenue so that it can get places without taxing us out of our Constitution. Is that a fair assessment of part of the battle that goes on this? Is getting people's, how do you point at, hey, we need more revenue without sounding like what I'm saying is we need more of your money? You know what I'm saying?
So I would argue that it's not necessarily a revenue problem, and they're trying to correct it through revenue.
I got you.
It's a spending problem, and it's a money management problem. I'll give you an example. The biggest thing that occurs inside a local government that creates problems is deferring the maintenance by not spending the money on stuff that they need to spend the money on. Okay, so it becomes a catastrophic point where it just fails then. The infrastructure fails catastrophically, and now you're spending millions of dollars to fix if you just spent $100,000 here, $50,000 here. Okay, so $50,000 and $100,000 is a lot of money. I get it. However, $100 every 3,000 to 5,000 miles to change your oil is
right.
Or do you want to swap the engine and it's a $10,000 bill?
Right. That's a good analogy. And you're saying you view Iowa as that's what it's doing. It's not
Oh,
setting money in place to maintain well what it has. And in the end, that's costing us more on the backside because of the big spending that has to happen at that point.
correct. It creates this, oh crap. We're at critical mass. The break has happened.
Wow.
Oh. And I'm quickly dismissed because it's like, what do you know? And here's the thing. I've been running the budget for 2 years now. This is the third year we've done the budget, and consistently my city manager and my city clerk are telling me over and over and over, no, I've got it right.
Mm.
So here's another thing that kills us is, so let's say we do limit the revenue.
Okay.
So what that does is it forces cities to focus that revenue on specific levies that cannot be capped. The debt service levy cannot be capped. So that means we're going to take out loans and bonds.
Okay. Yep.
Which means interest.
Yep. Which increases the cost.
Correct. Now, there's some debate on whether interest today on today's price and paying it today is better than waiting and putting it off until tomorrow. However, I'll give you an example. We've got in Roland, our water treatment plant was brand new in 1935, so it's 91 years old. We have to put in 2 new wells and a new water treatment plant here very shortly. That is going to be $4.745 million with 4.5% interest on 30 years is $8.739 million.
All right. Okay. You're depressing me just a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. So that payment is $291,302.87 a year. And that's interest and the principal in there. If you were to take that payment, put it in a set-aside account, and it can accrue interest at 5%, which is the statutory maximum right now.
Okay. Yep.
If we did that, we'd have more than enough money in 12 years. And it would save the taxpayers approximately $5 to $5.5 million, which the way that you would figure it is if you did it at that rate at the 5% interest in accruing, it would be that they only had to pay 3.495. So 3.495 and 8.7, as opposed to like you're paying the principal is 4.745 and you're still paying the 8.7, but you only had to pay 3.495. It makes sense to maintain the savings accounts and set aside accounts the way that they are. Now, I've heard some senators say some things about being concerned about that. However, one senator in particular constantly cites the Constitution of the state. And in the Iowa Constitution, it does say that if you levy a tax, you have to actually state the object that tax is going for.
So it has to be assigned. It can't be reassigned.
It's got to be assigned. It's got to be specified. It's got to be specifically stated. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason why we can't do this.
So I've heard 2 different statements by 2 different gentlemen running for governor. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize your understanding about when you're talking about property tax, you're talking about state budget. And I'd like to touch on that here in a minute too. But when you're talking about property tax, it sounds to me like you're taking the weight off of us, everybody else, all of us who owns property, because the conversation is around how much property tax is going to be taken. And you're saying if we structure things this way, raising property tax isn't near the issue because we're spending properly and lowering those costs overall.
Correct.
What is Adam Steen talking about when he says zero-based budget? And is the state of Iowa not using that now? that he says he wants to use? And is that, this is genuine ignorance on my part, is that part of why we are in a position that you are saying we are in a debacle now? Or is that separate from property taxes, and that would be moving over to the state budget?
So what he's talking about is coming to the table and starting and justifying every single dollar that you want to acquire.
Okay. All right.
And
accounted for. Basically.
Right. And part of, okay, so he's saying that as he wants to do it in both local government and state government. And the problem with this is you've got so many doggone departments and agencies that have already set up their budgets. They're already reporting to the Department of Management already. And again, going back to that constitutional provision that says it's got to be specifically earmarked anyway. You have to state what it goes for. So, and another thing is what I don't understand is he wants them to justify for every dollar that they spend every single year. And
do you think that's too much? Do you think that's asking too much?
At the local government?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We do that already. We have 6 budget workshops. Typically, we only schedule 4, but we had 6 this year.
Okay.
And you go in, the department heads make their reports, you work it out, the council sets everything up, and then they set up the public hearing. And then it goes from there. And if you're bringing up your objections at the public hearing, you're too late. You're too late. You should have gone to the budget workshops
earlier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because at the budget workshops, that's where all of the items and all of the asks and all of the requests were made. And we already went down every item line by line.
So do you think that, how's that going to translate? So you get to District 55, House Representative. What is your priority there in regards to what you see in both Iowa budget and property tax then to try to gear Iowa towards similar, I'm going to call it smart savings and smart spending?
So the objective was originally, I believe, to reduce at the state level, it was to reduce the income taxes and the burden on those people. At the local level, it was thought to be the same thing. Here's the problem. What happens if let's say we get rid of property taxes altogether? Because that is one of Eddie Andrews' main things.
It is.
He wants to get rid of it for residents.
I heard him at a Polk County Republicans, and he stated that, and I went, "Oh my gosh, are we even allowed to say that right now? Or eliminating all property tax?"
Well, some states have tried it, and some states have gone back. And the reason why is if you go 0% on the property tax, guess what happens? Major billionaires and corporations come in and they purchase your land and they set on it. And then when you hear candidates like Zach Lane say, I think they ought to pay 3 times as much in property taxes if they're like Syngenta or they're outside corporations or places like that. And I'm kind of like, that's a novel concept.
Well, am I understanding at the federal level, even President Trump is moving towards saying, no, you can't, large corporations can't come in, or beginning to limit their ability? Is that a part of that?
That's on its path, yeah.
Okay. Starting to reduce their ability to purchase
correct
property. And I think people are not aware of this. A little side note, I was on my way to a political event. My phone rang and somebody saying, hey, we're interested in buying your property. Everybody's seen the paper come in the mail. Everybody's received those phone calls. And so I said, oh, really? What's the name of the organization that's interested in buying my property? And he goes, oh, well, we are a group of investors that, and he kept going on that. And I said, so what's the name of the group of investors that's interested in purchasing my home? And he said, well, sir, we can't really disclose that to you, but we're very interested. And I said, listen to me very clear. Don't ever call my phone again and tell all your investors to leave us here in Iowa alone. I said, there's no way in heck, I'm selling you my property. And you could feel the pressure. And we've had many calls like that. And this is people maybe don't understand because, oh my gosh, somebody's going to buy my house, but they're not understanding the transfer of what that is from a business ownership to a personal person owning that. And that would be horrible if there wasn't property taxes and then owners weren't liable then.
So, yeah. I mean,
do you think it's good that the federal government's going, no, that's got to slow down. That's got to stop.
I do.
Yep.
Because let's go back to 2016, 2018, where the interest rates were 2% and 3%.
Right.
Holy buckets. What are we looking at now?
Where are we at in interest right now?
Right around 6%.
6%.
Yeah. So it got up as high as 8 and 9. So, I remember back in the 80s, 10% was thought to be low.
Right. No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So as far as drawing the dichotomy between local government and the way that you would do the budget, we're already doing it that way. Every city is doing it that way.
In Iowa. Okay.
Here's the funny part about local government that I think a lot of people are misleading on, and that is, ask me how many people showed up to the workshops.
Right.
0. And we advertise the heck out of it.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you feel that Iowa is yet too apathetic to learn, find out information, and involve itself so that impact can happen? Because I hear so many people like you have good ideas about this. And my wife and I were just having this conversation last week in regards to listening to some political discussion. And we were down Atlantic. And my wife said, how come this is all the people that showed up? This was a big thing for people to come, ask questions, hear what's going on, have conversations with these people. Where do you think we are as Iowans? Are we too comfortable in just being the superpower rights?
So it depends on, there are a few categories here. The people that are showing up to the ballot box during the Republican primary are the older folks.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are dyed-in-the-wool red Republican that are hardcore conservatives. And then you have, if you go to the Democratic Party, they're literally, they range from professional age 22 on up. Even they're struggling to show up to the polls during a primary. But when they get the voter base fired up, then more people show up. There's another interesting statistic which was given to me by Representative Charlie Thompson out of Charles City, is in Floyd County right now, the 18 to 30 year old male voters, 88% are Republican. And that's because of him and his team's effort to get them to register to vote. And then the same age range, but for women, is right around 74% from what I understand.
So an uptick.
Yep. Originally, even though he won his district, he lost Floyd County, which is where Charles City is, on his first election.
Yep.
But the second election, he won Floyd County because he fought so hard.
Wow.
So those are the sorts of things, you have to pay attention to. You have to listen to your constituents. You have to listen to what they want. But at the same time, you need to be very informative about, you need to be out there peppering them with info, because it's like, look, you guys got no idea what's going on. It's apparent. You need to get fired up.
Right.
Things are bad.
Right. Would you feel, now that you've stepped in this position to run, is it really hard to get that message out, to get that to the people that are going to be voting for you in District 55?
Is it hard for me? No. Is it hard for people to actually hear me? I mean, it's the analogy. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink, right? So I think that's where we're at. They have to want to be fired up. And I think a lot of it comes down to messaging.
Sure.
How you structure the message also makes the person feel like it was their idea.
Yeah. Yep. Or at least a part of what they really believed or needed to believe in and didn't realize it too. Like I hear information from candidates. I thought, oh my gosh, I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm realizing it's important for me to be thinking about that.
Right.
And that's a wise thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me jump for a second because I know this is an issue in Iowa, and I think it's an issue for you.
Mm.
Tell me about the CO2 pipeline. What do you want to see happen with that? Because we have stepped a little further in trying to understand what that is. And I see this battle going on, but I don't quite understand the details. And then I heard Stephen King speak on it. And I went, say it isn't so. What do we need to have the opportunity to have the CO2 pipeline for economics reasons, or is this really a problem in the state of Iowa, infringing against the rights of Iowans?
So
for some under reason we don't know about.
So I would tell you that a lot of people are concerned about the safety of the CO2 pipeline. It's 3/4 inch mild steel pipe, 24 inches in diameter. It would hold 2,200 psi of liquefied carbon dioxide. So it's just like liquid nitrogen, really. You know, liquid nitrogen when it sprays it at the
sure.
So when it goes to convert from a solid to a gas, it gets really cold, right? Not as cold as liquid nitrogen, but it still gets pretty cold. So there are benefits to it. There's benefits to having the carbon dioxide on hand. Would I classify it as being a common carrier that is necessary and convenient? No. Here's the difference. Let's go to the Dakota Access Pipeline. The Dakota Access Pipeline, crude oil, right?
Yep.
Transports it to a refinery that turns it into gasoline, which is petrol or diesel, right? And you might make some kerosene out of it and benzene and whatever else, other byproduct that you have, right?
Sure.
So that goes and it benefits the everyday consumer. So yeah, that does qualify as a common carrier. That does meet the definition of convenient, necessary. So then there's this, okay, what about this 14-mile takings of pipeline for anhydrous ammonia? Well, so they went into this marshy land and they took this guy's, they condemned it for the pipeline for this anhydrous ammonia. Well, the thing about that is it fertilizes the farm ground that you're using to get your food from. However, at the point in time, you know, even if it's not being used as food, it's still being used as some sort of product that's ending up on your table. Or it's ending
the
up
anhydrous.
Used
for it.
For
the function of it.
Yes.
Yep.
So what's the carbon dioxide doing?
That's the question.
So the carbon dioxide is literally going into sequestration. So basically they're pumping it into the ground and that's it. So then there's been some like changes in Summit's messaging with enhanced oil recovery being added to it and whatnot. Well, turns out we've been able to find several good uses for CO2. One being used as a refrigerant. Well, guess what? There's a lot of data centers that are going to require cooling. Well, guess what? It's a wonderful tool to use as a refrigerant. Well, could then maybe it be used as a common carrier? Possibly, but you got to justify it first and the type of like data center that you've got running. And are you using specific types of hardware to be able to get to there? It's still a lot of legal hoops to jump through, But honestly, with what they're trying to do here and what Congressman King is talking about is, in order to qualify for the 45Q and the 45Z on the new Green Deal or the Green New Deal, it has to be used for sequestration. So if you used it as a refrigerant, it wouldn't qualify. So it's kind of interesting how that's all developing.
You're making the case that something could be done with the CO2 to make it useful. Those who are combating against it saying you're trying to take our property for nothing more than sequestration.
Thank
you, sequestration, just as a matter of getting tax dollars for the Green Deal, because the Green Deal means federal tax enhancements, tax subsidies.
So,
and the more we look towards tax subsidies on that, then I look at this as here's what I don't quite get. I can understand the argument for needing or finding a use for it, but that use should have been found before there was a problem about dropping the pipeline in.
Correct. The other part of this whole equation is the new CEO for Summit. He's been doing pipelines for 42 years, I think, and not once has he ever used eminent domain to put one in. Not once. So that's his claim to fame. So Summit still says that they need to do eminent domain in a few places in the state. I call that's garbage. That's bullcrap.
Interesting. Well, I'll be interested to see what happens with that then.
And if you were to ask me if I think we should kill the project, that answer is no.
Okay.
Because farmers have been getting tax subsidies since 1977.
That is true.
So
that's a hard line to. I know that's a hard line to split.
And the hard part about this is okay. You're going to find that ag and big ag are two totally different things, but they seem to find a way to coalesce and make themselves one when they're not. I'll tell you this. I know that if you were to remove the tax subsidies on the grain and you were to remove the tax subsidies on the CO2,
yep.
What do you force them to do? You force them to diversify their markets.
Yep.
You force them to add value to their commodity.
Yep.
And then you force them to actually, make more money?
But
I just think that they would make a heck of a lot more money without any sort of subsidy and any reliance on the government, because the government not only tells them when they can make money and when they can't make money.
Right.
And it limits them on what they can and cannot get. I just think that's horrible.
It is a danger of the subsidy ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think getting in too much of a hurry over products like this, you talk about electric windmills, you talk about ethanol, all subsidized. There isn't money. If they waited to spend their own money to get to the point, that would be called free market.
Mm-hmm.
And once you enter the free market, yes, you have the potential, but nobody wanted to do the struggle or the one's own effort to get there. They always seem to partner up early with the government. Say, hey, this subsidy, and the government says, yeah, we want you guys to be profitable, and we want this to be a legitimate source for profitability for people, or financial profitability. Now, I'm going to throw in here a little biblical ideal that I've always thought has been one of the hardest things to separate out of the hearts of us as people, which is, I know that money in itself is not evil. But the Bible says the love of it is the root of all kinds of evil, all types of evil. Now, this is not pointing a finger. I'm not trying to point the finger at the intention of things, but I am saying it seems to me we as people have a tendency to go, oh, well, that's a quicker, easier way to have money. if we can pass it around so that others can. And I think we're finding ourselves in that middle mess, including farmers.
Yes.
With subsidies, and then it would appear the CO2 pipeline too. Then you're going to have to assign motive. Then you're going to have to assign proof. And now you're going to have to get a bunch of people who are, and I lean a little on the eminent domain thing. I was like, hey, nobody should be forcing their way into that. Well, it's also pretty muckety muck when you get down to the details of why and how and what causation of that is. Do you think the love of money is trying to push this more than actual benefit?
Yes, I do. You know, if we actually pushed the benefit and shifted our priorities, it kind of goes back to the comment I made earlier about what fills my love tank.
Yeah.
If you follow your purpose and you fulfill yourself with that purpose, when you're down on your luck, everyone's going to step up to help take care of you until you get back up on your feet, and then bam, you're back at it, right? Well, in this sort of scenario, we're literally putting the welfare of the entire ag community and making it so that it can stand on its own and figure out how to like work within the free market.
Right.
I bet they would excel probably 5 or 6 to 1 what they're doing right now if you got government out and you started adding value to that commodity you have by creating products with it on your own. Look at Africa. Their commodities that come out of there, it's raw material. And they sell raw material as commodities. And it's like, what are we doing here? Because you're not adding any sort of value. I'll tell you, there's a gentleman I work with on the CO2 pipeline stuff. His name is Doyle Turner, and he's an economist. Farmer, economist, banker. This guy knows money inside and out, and he knows how the markets work. And when he gave a speech at college, there was some sort of forum that was going on. This gentleman from Africa came up to him and said, no, you're spot on. I've been trying to say this for a long time. Africa's economy is losing because they just take the raw product and commodity and they add value elsewhere with it.
Right. And everybody else benefits from adding the value to that raw product.
Correct.
Yeah, I see that. Of course, America has a global impact on what it's trying to do with that economy, what it's doing with seed, what it's doing with pork, what it's doing with beef, and all those kinds of things. And so we're a big player from that standpoint. And I don't know, I can barely even perceive the impacts of that and how it would be to try to get everything else agricultural back to a private market or fair market, competitive market base. That would be tough. Going into this. And again, you're running for District 55, House Representatives. What do you want people to know is your desire for your representatives, for those you represent, in going to this? What do you want to do for Iowa and the people of District 55 that you feel is on their minds that you believe needs to be done at the state capitol?
So my priorities, there are 3 big ones. So the number one priority for me is property tax reform, period.
Okay.
So what that looks like is we prioritize saving the money and let the interest do the taxpayers' work instead of always bonding and taking out those loans. The trimming of the fat by establishing a statement of legitimate need by the local governmental entity on every line item. Remember how Steen had mentioned he thinks we need to start at 0.
Right.
Every city already does it. They go line by line through their budget every single year. Budget season, we're required to do that. If you have a statement of legitimate need, that sets up the stage that, hey, this is legitimate. And if it's not, guess who is standing to bring suit against the city to correct it? Any of its residents. It sets the stage. You as a resident can challenge that. Please, if I'm doing it wrong, correct me. The last thing,
there's accountability.
Oh, yes.
In that. Yep.
The last thing would be for frills and thrills. So think about it this way. Is beautification necessary? No.
Not for me.
Well, but having but having like a pool and a park, those aren't necessary. But they are valuable to our communities. So what I would do is I would say that I would cap the property tax contribution at 3% of the total budget of the city or the county or whatever governmental entity is a local government in Iowa. And that way you can still do a little bit of economic development, a little bit of beautification. But I would not throw industrial, commercial, and residential development into that. It's a totally different bag. Totally different bag. So that's the gist of what I would do in my first priority.
Yeah.
So my second priority is the price of utilities in the state is entirely too high. So what's interesting is if you go next door to Nebraska, they have the 5th lowest utilities in all of the United States.
What's that compared to Iowa utilities? What's that percentage roughly?
I don't know the complete details. I can tell you this. There's a huge difference between Alliant and Mid-American.
Okay.
And Alliant, currently, those consumers pay 60% more than Mid-American. And the RECs, depending on the REC, somewhere in there, there's somewhere between that net or clear to 60% more.
Wow.
So
maybe I'll move to Nebraska.
Well,
except for those lower utilities. And that's been a complaint in Iowa. It's like our utilities. Now, we're here to try to keep your utilities down. I'm sorry, my bills don't reflect that.
So
utilities don't.
There was a huge debate on this last year with the governor's energy plan, which was it involved investing more money in energy, but it also involved right of first refusal on transmission lines. So it would prioritize companies that were currently doing business in the state for them to purchase those transmission lines if anyone were to like build and sell them.
Wow.
And so it created quite a hubbub. And there was also other things where there's certain companies that I've never seen them win a bid with MISO. So usually
these are structured. Are these items, do you believe the last 2 years have been appropriately brought to vote? Are these things that Iowa is paying attention to currently?
So
or are they going, yeah, we're not going to deal with that again this year?
So on the surface level, yes. In the weeds, no. They have no idea of how the machine is running. They have no idea what the components of the machine are. They have no idea what it looks like. And part of the problem is a lack of voter interest. They're not showing up to the budget meetings. They're not showing up to the primary votes. So many people are not showing up to the ballot box.
And that's where the influence happens.
Correct.
That's where the thinking, that's where the conversation is like, hey, we need to talk about
this
via the vote. You have a lot
of power at the ballot box.
Right.
And you just don't realize it.
Right. You know what? That's interesting because sometimes I feel like people on Capitol Hill treat the rest of us as peons.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if the peons don't stand up and go, guess what, peon, you got to get involved. And if you do, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I do see a balance there because I used to just be upset at those who are up above us. But I'm like, and yet, if we don't stand up and go, hey, guess what? I got to involve myself. That way it influences that. And
I don't remember.
Do you think we're giving up our own power?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the movie. Maybe A Bug's Life, where the ants realized that they were more powerful, but they didn't know it. And the grasshoppers came in and they took a harvest. And then before they realized that they had more, our people do not know how much power they really wield. if they just go to the doggone voter ballot and go to the voter box and do it.
I really appreciate what you're saying, because the church and all people, and say people don't go to church. That's fine. That's fine. We bring both the conversations here, but I think we think, well, you know what? If the people that we believe to be in power there, we're kind of done. I'm gonna pour myself a glass of iced tea. I'm gonna sit in my recliner. I'm gonna keep living my life. And I don't want. I think sometimes the church needs to hear this at the table. Somewhere, somehow, open your mouth, give your thoughts, get to that meeting, get to that city meeting. Pick one this year and try it. People are afraid to talk. Just pick one and try it and say something. This has been new for me to go down the State House and actually say something in committee, because you have the opportunity, subcommittee, and go down. And I remember the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I think I need to say something. I stood in that room and I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an idiot. Everybody's going to laugh. This is going to be great. It's going to be great. And then it goes, and you, sir? And I'm like, and then you start talking and you went, oh, everybody else here is just here to say what they think too. And then you enter in these good conversations. And so your statement, I want to be heard as an emphasis on the podcast today for people who hear this and say, yes, you.
Yeah.
You're hearing, yes, you.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate how you're bringing that to the table.
The last priority, I would tell you, is the state's budget. And I'm going to tell you the numbers from the fiscal impact from the Senate dropped on what their projected expenditures were in comparison to what the revenue was projected to be. So if I recall correctly, the REC report said 8.111 billion was going to be the amount that we were going to have in revenue.
That's projected for this year?
Yes.
2026.
Well, going into the new fiscal year in 2027.
I got you.
The expenditures are projected at 9.6 billion. We're talking $1.5 billion
short.
So I'm going,
It's
how like there's all these thoughts I have going in my head going, how do we get to any sort of reasonable, rational, like, did we do this too quickly? And I think we did. I think we cut taxes entirely too quickly. There was no time to adjust. They were just, it was, no, we're just going to do this and you're going to like it. And it's like, okay, but you guys did not phase out any of the expenditures. You kept the expenditures the same, and then you didn't adjust the tax then, the revenue tax or the income tax. And it was like, okay. So it kind of feels like very Reagan-esque, where Bob Dole at that point in time. So being a child of the 80s, I sure enjoyed 1980s and 1990s politics. I get to watch it on the TV a lot. Yeah. And Bob Dole, like, saying, no, we need to cut the taxes now, where Reagan was saying, no, we need to cut the expenditures now, not the taxes. No, we need to do both. Well, okay, so we did what Bob Dole wanted. And then Bill Clinton's elected president because Bush realized in 1992 he actually had to raise taxes in order to cover expenditures.
That sounds to me like policy based on we want your vote.
Instead of doing the right thing and just being transparent.
Yes. Yep.
So I'll float this idea. This is the idea that I've recognized. So we went from a range of 9 to 11% roughly on the income taxes to all of 3.8% on a flat tax.
Right.
And that's for the higher earners. So let's say you're making $200,000 and you can get a 7% cut in your taxes. So you get $14,000 back in that year. Those people are not spending their paycheck. They're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
So they're taking that $14,000 and they're investing it. And when they invest it, it's not here in Iowa.
It's not going to be locally spent.
No.
And we're not going to see the benefit of that.
Correct.
I see that.
So here's the thing. If we wanted to really go to a 0% income tax, you start at the bottom and you work your way up.
I got to say, I've not thought of some of these things the way you're laying it out, and I'm appreciating the angle you're coming from.
I think there's a way to do this in a way that we can get there. We're just going about it the wrong doggone way.
I heard a commercial. Rob Sand did the commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not screaming accusations, but he's saying, hey, there are some issues in our financials. Iowa doesn't look as great as we all think it does necessarily. And I'm not trying to tie what you're saying, but is some of what you're saying what he is also kind of going, hey, we are short in the end on this? Is it reasonable to think that where he's pulling from is a similar idea? Regardless of motive, I'm just saying.
Okay, so here's the
because he's against us spending out of the rainy day fund. He's like, well, if we're just going to be spending, if I'm understanding that correctly, or I don't know if he's opposed to that too. But is that what the Republicans are counting on? Look, if we have a shortfall, we're going to take it from our rainy day fund.
So when this was originally pitched,
okay,
there were some we'll call them triggers set into place that if something happened, it would trip the trigger and it would stop and it would allow time for it to adjust. Now, when the governor's office came down and said, I don't care, I want to move to 3.8. And this was around the time where it was the 2024 election and she was backing Governor DeSantis for president. And she had to be so much more like Florida. And that was the general sentiment. The problem I'm having with that is we're not Florida. Florida has a huge tourism base where they have their own set of taxes that are coming in that are funding those things
based on that tourism.
Correct.
So you can cut the tax low, but you got to have a reason where the income's coming in, and Iowa hasn't found that spot.
No.
They're declaring to the voter, hey, we want low income tax, and we're all going, yay. Mm-hmm. But what they're not saying is, and here's how we are able to draw that income.
Correct.
Yeah.
So our good friend Jacob Hall, he recently posted that we're the 10th highest. We have the 10th highest property taxes in the United States here in Iowa. So here's what I'm going to throw at you. Per capita, we got the
right.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
So, but we have some of the lowest home values in the United States too. So we're spending the same amount of money on better infrastructure. So what you're looping in there is okay, so New York. Okay, so if you go to New York City, Albany, Rochester, it's like all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute. Those guys New York City's pulling in income taxes at the city level. They're getting revenue.
I can barely even think about that. Just because they live in the city, they're getting income tax from their employment.
They're getting revenue in other forms. Iowa's not. Right. Everyone's crying about it. But when you look at it objectively, look at Las Vegas. They get gambling taxes and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's not part of their property taxes now, is it? And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, look at them. Well, hold the phone.
Has Iowa been trying to recover some of that through the gambling that's been allowed over here over the last 35 years that began with riverboats and balls?
But remember that constitutional provision?
Yeah.
That it's got to be, anytime you tax money, it has to be specifically earmarked.
What it's going to be spent. Yep.
They're specifically earmarked. They have to go to a specific item.
Okay. So that counts there too.
Yes.
In regards to that.
Yes. So those are the things that they've already been accounted for.
I got you.
we as a state don't know how really good we really have it. We really need to look at investigating it a little bit better, because one of the things I've noticed is this notion that we're so much worse. So if you were to compare like our residential and our commercial, we're substantially higher by itself as far as property
tax goes. Okay.
However, Iowa's ag king, and our property taxes on the ag side are quite a bit lower. So I'll tell you, we've got friends in Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota. They'd rather be paying our ag property tax levels.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like things that are lost in the weeds. Here's something else that's interesting that stuck out to me was if you were to go on Jacob's little thing, the chart, and it says that, if I recall correctly, the average annual property taxes by state is such and such amount. But if you were to go down and look, it says median property tax rate. You can't compare a median with a mean. It's not apples to apples. So there's another thing that when you're trying to compare things.
I see you as a detailed individual. You're not afraid of the devil in the details.
No.
You feel the details matter.
Yes.
And the details, so your average Joe, people are going to listen to you today, and then they go, why again am I supposed to vote for him? And I'm trying to understand this because people go, I just want the big picture. I just want to know how it's going to benefit me. But what I'm hearing you talk about is somebody who considers the details and the importance of the long haul impact that this has against the state. And if I could, I want to encourage voters to think a little bit about that when we go to the polls.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We're the quick benefit people. Supersize me right now. Well,
the difference between instant gratification versus delayed gratification.
Yes.
Oh, what's that teach our kids?
Yeah.
Maybe
to that.
Maybe you should save your money so you can retire at 65 instead of being like my dad and have to work until he's 80.
Right. And this sets an example of that, even at a state level, this kind of thinking that you're bringing to the table.
Correct.
Man, I can appreciate that. And I hope that as people hear things like this podcast and you're able to speak to the people and get and reach this message to the people, that we listen to this and go, okay, I hear the details and I want to trust that these details matter. Because it sounds to me that you are that guy in regards to the details. I'm not hearing politician.
Well,
I'm hearing concerned individual who's more for the state, the next generation, and actually getting to do the hard work. I'm tired of politicians. I do the hard work. You're sitting here talking about the hard work in a way most of us are not used to.
The hard work is easy to just pull up your bootstraps and get the work, right? But if you don't know what you're fixing, then what are you going to fix?
Right.
If you know that, hey, this is putting a pinch on my residents. This is putting a pinch on the citizens. Okay, then why don't we look at this the old-fashioned way and actually dig into, okay, where are we bleeding money? Where are we unnecessarily spending money? I can tell you this. At the city of Roland, we figured out that in 2013, they expended a couple $100,000 on a backhoe. Well, the backhoe has a front scoop, and you can change it, and you can haul snow with it, and you can haul gravel with it and dirt with it and whatnot. But it's also got the excavator portion, right? The excavator portion wasn't used at all in 11 years of use, ever. Because anytime they used the actual excavator portion, they called in a contractor to do that work. So we were like, well, it's got a maximum speed of like 17 miles an hour, and you only got a couple of front bucket attachments. What could we do that's comparable that would be better benefit for us? Did you know that an end loader for the same price can do things faster It's got a snow blowing attachment. It's got an adjustable plow attachment. It's got the front scoop. It's got a myriad of stuff, and it can do it faster, better, safer, and more efficiently. For a city our size, we just threw money away because it had an excavator.
Not taking the time to do the shopping
Right.
for the right product that's more efficient and can do the whole thing, and that's not a waste. Right.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Where, Kurtis, can people go? Where can we go to find out more about who you are, what you're doing, and how you're trying to become the next House representative for District 55?
So I've got a YouTube account. If you type in Kurtis Bower, you're going to find him. Find me.
We found you. You're here.
Yes.
Yeah, we have found you.
Facebook, Kurtis Bower, candidate for Iowa House District 55. If you go to Facebook, I'm on there as the mayor of the city of Roland, Iowa.
Right on.
What else? You can email me at kurtis.bower82@gmail.com, and it's Kurtis with a K, and Bower's Bower. And I don't care if I get phone calls. It's 515-975-0747, because if you go to the city of Roland's website, it's my cell phone.
Okay.
And here's the thing. People have been known to show up at my house going, hey, I'm having a trouble with a neighbor, and I really don't want to call the police. I don't want to call the sheriff's office, and I don't want to make it hard. Can you help? And I go and I do it. And I go, hey, that dog's been barking. Come on. and it doesn't muddy the water for the neighbors.
I want to hear you win. And I want to see the speech when you stand up and go, hey, your dog's been barking. I want to hear that right down at the State House, brother. I'm looking forward to that. Something serious. Absolutely. Anything else? I want to give you the last opportunity here before we shut down. Anything else you want your people to know as an opportunity to either learn more about you, or you're going, this is what I'm saying I want to do for you for District 55?
So while I've got some great ideas,
yeah,
you people don't really care what I think. So you care what you think. So I need to know what you think. So don't be afraid to reach out to me. Don't be afraid to ask me questions. Don't be afraid to, you know what? I love tough questions. I'm not afraid of tough questions. You want to know why? I am cool as a cucumber.
It's true.
I am. Here's the funny part. So, Nathan Hayes, our mutual friend, he sees me work at the Capitol, and he goes, you just seem to thrive in chaos. And I go, it's not any different than combat, really.
Oh, geez.
Because you got all these elevated emotions. You got all of these egos getting in the way. Hey, he did this. That's unacceptable.
Right.
And I'm going, okay, but are you sure that's not your ego talking? Are you sure that's just not heightened emotions? Maybe we need to take a moment, bring it down, and rationally think about this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, fine.
I love it.
And the emotions and the ego do get in the way, and I am cool as a cucumber.
I don't know. You might be able to do something about the protesters that come down there. Like, I could see you walk in the middle and them all going, oh, it's Kurtis Bower, everybody. Just check your egos. Check your egos. Don't worry about the color of your hair. Just watch your mouth and just everybody calm down.
So okay. So funny story. I'll leave you with this one.
We got time for funny stories.
Okay. So here we go. So I am cutting into the side of my house, and I've got this cheap Menards saw.
Yep.
And it's $40 and I'm pushing it along, and I'm holding the guard back, right? So I can sink it in and then push it.
I got you. Yep.
Okay. So it skips.
No.
And my wife is a nurse. She's a nurse, but she's not an ER nurse. Funny. So you see that scar there.
I do.
That scar and that scar.
I can testify. I'm looking at it. Yep.
Okay. So it got between the guard and into the blades, and they chewed up I had chunks of meat and everything. So
You said this was a funny story.
Well, I'm getting to the funny part.
Okay.
So I know my wife's about to pass out. If she sees it, she's going to pass out. And I said, Jamie, she just nothing. I said, Jamie. And she looks back and she sees where my hand is. And she's like, you could see it. That her face turns white. I said, can you go get me a towel, please? And she goes, yep. And then goes in and goes to the closet and gets a towel. At that point, I choose to pull my hand out and I'm holding pressure down and I don't let her see. And she's like, okay, move your hand so I can put the towel. No, just put the towel down over my hand. She goes, no, just move. No. And she goes, why? And I said, does it look like I want 2 patients today? And she goes, no, you're right. And she puts it in that. And then, but the funny story is for a nurse, she can't handle blood and guts and gore. Especially if it's her loved ones, because the kid, our youngest, he bit through the bottom of his lip one time and there was blood everywhere.
And being a kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she's like so rattled. And it was funny because I come in and I go, okay, let me have him. And she's like, well, what? Why? I say, you got him freaked out. I need him to stop bleeding. So I grab him and I said, hey, how are you? And we just get to talking. And it's that late night DJ voice, right? And he's all like, okay, he wouldn't go near her for 3 days.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
But with being cool as a cucumber, you can get a lot of things calmed down. You get a lot of things kind of back in and you get it right on the rails again.
Yep.
Yep.
We're going to need that, Kurtis, because we encourage people to get involved and sometimes get a little emotion because some people have been so calm. We need to see things done, but we need problem solving to happen where people can come to calm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, Kurtis.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
For those of you watching too, content might not be appropriate for nurses. I'm just going to say that right there. You can reach out to kurtisforiowa.com. He's on Facebook. He's on YouTube. He is the mayor of Roland, and you could call there and actually talk to him and give your ideas. I want to thank him for being with us. I want to thank the Lord for who he is. And I want to encourage you to put away the gods